if you don't have a plan to achieve financial independence, for many people, that means that they're not going to achieve it in their lifetimes. And so, what I want to do in this video is start getting many of you to start thinking about how to plan your lives. Now, look, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not advice, but really what it is I'm providing you guys with a free to download model, which you can start using to start thinking about how to sort of structure your finances as you move on in your lives. And so get the downloadable file in the link below of this video and follow along as we work through this model. And so guys, as you smash that like button, let me run that intro. What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now this is a free course with a downloadable model, and the reason why I'm making this course available for free for everyone is because I think there's some things that are more valuable than money. And one of the reasons why I started this channel was really to help people on their path towards financial independence. And you know, the thing that I saw a lot on YouTube was a lot of like get rich quick, a lot of people focusing on very speculative types of tech investments. And you know, I tried to stay really far away from that as much as I could. I mean, I've made mistakes in the past as well, but the point really is focusing on sensible investments, you know, being very showing humility when it comes to doing your analysis. But really, the real building blocks when it comes to generating a large amount of wealth is really the plan that you incorporate to get yourself there. And so that's really what I want to focus on. So take a moment, click on the link that is available, and then click on file download on that file, and you'll be able to download this file, or even like file make a copy if you want to keep it in Google Sheets, and then follow along. So right off the bat, you will see you know, I just made a typical standard family. So there's a husband and a wife. They both work. They both earn $60,000 a year. And they pay $13,108 each in annual tax off their paychecks. Now, of course, for every family, your tax bill will be different depending on your taxable situation. Of course, it's very customized, and so this is customizable to you. The tax bill that these people are seeing, I actually linked the calculator. So this is a tax calculator, which I'll show you in the next slide. But really what I just assumed is that these people live in Michigan. And the only reason why I picked Michigan is I just picked a state that was close to Canada, which of course, you know, you got Michigan, you got New York. And so taking a look at the tax calculator, this is a really cool tool that's available for free. And I just put 60,000 here, which is, I think, the median income in America. And so of course I changed the per to annual. You can make it bi-weekly, monthly, weekly, daily, whatever you want. And then I just put the state of Michigan. And so you can see their total tax every year is $13,108. Now, once again, that will change depending on the state that you're in, but also the income will also change depending on the state you're in. I mean, if you're working in Manhattan, chances are you have a higher income, but you may also have a higher tax rate. Same thing with California, potentially. And so now that we looked at how that tax calculator link works, so you know, we work our way down the model. Once again, you have it downloaded now, so you can actually see that these are inputs. Everything in blue is an input. And so we'll just work our way down. So, you know, you put in the annual salary, you put in the annual tax, it will calculate the after-tax income for you. It shows it on an individual basis, but also sums it up on a family basis. So as a family, you guys make $120,000 a year. Your annual tax is $26,000 a year. You have $93,000 left over. But, you know, nobody looks at their budget from an annual perspective. We all look at it from a monthly perspective. And so, you know, all this is doing is it's just dividing that 46 divided by 12 months. And so they're making around $8,000 a month, or $7,800 a month. Now, I calculated my way backwards into this number. So let's move away from savings first, and we'll end with that. So, you know, I just assumed that in the state of Michigan, their mortgage and property tax is probably around $2,000 a month. And that's probably on the high end, really. Their cell phone, they're paying $70 a month, so $35 each. Groceries, it's around $5.50 a month. That might be low, depending on your family. You know, auto payments, they both have auto payments of $200 a month. Auto insurance, gas, spending, etc. So, you know, this one is going to be the hardest one to forecast because, you know, we all have discretionary spending, and it might be lower or higher. I would think most people are higher than $400 a month. When I first started saving, I actually set my discretionary spending at $400 a month. And I realized how difficult it was to stay within $400 a month. Now, I'm many years into my career, and so my spending amount is not as low anymore. But if you're starting out, I would try and stay as close to just sustaining keeping this as low as possible. Your discretionary spending, stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be spent, money needs to be spent on. And the reason why I put a certain amount in there, because there would be times where I'm going out to eat with friends and et cetera. So it's like that kind of stuff, right? Because I already have gas in here. All of them are necessities. Also part of the thing that could be in here is also like clothes for getting to work, etc. So I mean, you have necessary spending that happens every month, but it's hard to forecast. And that's why I say this could potentially be low, but it also could be very volatile. Some months you get a lot of bills and you blow this budget, and some months you run under. But I always found that it was very difficult to stay at 400. I just threw 400 in, but it's very realistic for you guys to suggest that that's not realistic, and you'd pump the number higher, which all that means is that the sum of all of these lines will provide you with a certain number. So if you're in the model right now and you just delete these two lines, you are provided with a certain number, and I think it's close to like $2,000. So this particular family, each individual spends around $2,000 per month for living, and then what they're able to do is they're both able to save for around $1,500 a month, which brings the difference to zero. So in other words, they bring in $39.08. This is how they spend it. And so their total spending for the month is $39.08. But of course, it's not all spending. The savings go into a retirement portfolio, which we'll go and look at next. The other thing that I would want to point out is that you're paying down your mortgage, so there is a principal repayment component here, but I'm not factoring that into your net worth calculation. But some people might want to factor that in. But the way I think about it is, look, you're gonna have to live somewhere once you retire, and so it's not like you're selling your house. Yeah, there are some people who refi their house, pull out the capital, invest it, and live off the spread, but I don't necessarily recommend doing that, because I'm all about de-risking your life, and that's a potential recipe for disaster. So that's why I don't even calculate any of the mortgage principal into your retirement savings. But you guys decide how you want to do it, but that would just overcomplicate this. I'm trying to keep this very simple for you guys. And so to the right of that model, you'll see the calculation by year. And so you in the previous slide, you saw that I pointed out that their savings rate, actually I'll go right back to it quickly. You'll notice that I said that they will they'll save $3,000 a month, and that $3,000 a month equals $35,940 or $36,000 a year. So you can see that auto populates into this annual payment right here, $35,952. So that's how this is being driven. So you're going from your monthly budget, and it auto updates and drives your savings amount. And so what this does is, you're starting your first year at zero savings. In comes your savings, and then the way that the earnings formula works is there's actually two formulas in here. The first formula takes the amount that you saved in this year and multiplies it by the rate of return. And let's go back into this other file here. You'll notice that you have your rate of return right there. So I'm using 8%. We'll talk about the annuity rate of return afterwards. So just remember that it's 6%, but the rate of return that we're working with right now is 8%. So we'll go back over here, and what it'll do is it'll take this, divide it by 2, and then multiply it by 8 for the savings in the first year. And the reason why is because you're not saving this all in day one, you're saving it throughout the year. And so you're not going to be generating a return from day one. So that's why it divides the earnings by 2 for all of the savings that comes into the portfolio. The beginning amount is treated differently because that amount is there from the beginning of the year. It multiplies it by the full 8%. So in this particular earnings formula, you'll have this multiplied by 8% and this multiplied by 8% divided by 2 essentially, and so call it 4%, and so that's how you get to the earnings amount. And then of course, you know, the 0 plus the 35 plus the earnings is what gets you to this ending number, and then the ending number is the beginning number for the following year. And so you'll see that always happening. So the 168 becomes the 168 at the beginning of year 5. It was the ending number in year 4. So that's how that works. Now let's go to the annuity payment. Now you guys remember that it was 6%. So what's happening here is when you click into this formula, really what it is I built out what's called a payment formula. And so what that payment formula is doing is it's taking this ending amount and it's saying, what would happen if I paid out a set amount of money over a long term? I just set it to 100, but if you want to reduce the payout term, take the 100 and change it to any year that you want. You know, if you let's just say you achieved your retirement age here in 25 years, so call that 65, and you think you're going to only live for 20 more years, you would want to change the annuity payment year from 100 to 20, because that's how long you expect it to pay out for. So you decide how you want to change that. I just defaulted and put 100 in there, so you'll see that when you click into this cell right here. But the point of what it's doing is it's saying, look, if I'm going to pay this amount over 100 years, how much am I going to pay out per month or per year? And the answer is 2,250. And what's happening is this amount is growing at 6% a year, but then it's also declining at 2,250 per year. And over 100 years, there's enough principal being taken off that the account goes to 0. So you're still generating interest over that time period or an earnings, but enough principal is being taken off so that the principal balance becomes 0 at the end of year 100. So that's how that works. So if you want to test that out quickly, if you change that 100 to 1, you'll notice that the annual payment is much higher because you're eating up that whole principal amount in that first year. And so why does this matter? Because we're not retiring to get a lump sum amount. We're retiring to achieve an annual payment to replace our salaries. And so the question is, what salary or like what annual payment amount is sufficient to run your home? Well, you know, if we go back to what their expenses are, if we assume that their mortgage and property taxes go away, it looks like their total expenses, I don't know, I'm just eyeballing this, call it $3,000 a month, maybe $4,000 a month. That might be generous. I don't know, like you take away the mortgage, maybe, I don't know, round this up to $1,000 and call that $1,500. So 3,500. So call that $3,500 a month. Just a high level eyeballing it. And so on a 12-month basis, that's around $42,000 a year. So, you know, assuming that they pay off their mortgage before they retire, they need around at least $42,000 in today's dollars. And then when you go back here, you know, the further out you go, the more you have to take into account the fact that these aren't today's dollars, these are future dollars. And so that's why I highlighted number 15. So maybe 61 is something that they might be comfortable retiring at. But remember, these people have just started saving. They're probably, you know, 5 years into their career. So they're probably like 27 years old right now. Call it 27 just for argument's sake. So they can work for at least another 38 years. Is it realistic that they're going to retire in 15 years? Maybe not. Maybe they can. Also, is it realistic that they're going to pay down their mortgage in 15 years? Maybe. I don't know. 25 years seems more reasonable. And, you know, if you're making 60 grand a year at 27 and you're planning to work for 25 years, I think that's a more realistic approach. And so they're still retiring in their early 50s, so 52. That's when they get to this 25 year mark. Their mortgage is probably just naturally paid down. And now the combined income is 164. Now in real dollars, present value dollars, that 164 is a lot less, but you guys can present value that and see what it is in today's dollars, but I think it's probably sufficient to cover their expenses. Remember, we said that it's probably around 40,000 once the mortgage is gone, and so I think that's in today's dollars is more than 40,000. So that's really how that works. And I do want to show you guys something. Now, I use a more granular model when it comes to my own budgeting. In fact, I actually look at my budget, I would say virtually every day, definitely once a week for sure. I look at my budget. It looks something like this. So I just took the same situation, and there's your husband's salary, there's your wife's salary, and really this is more dynamic because what it takes into account of is, you're not actually making $60,000 a year. Most of us have cost of living adjustments that we get every year at work, and so their annual salary is increasing, their amount of annual tax is also increasing, and then the bills are also increasing. And so you see everything is a little bit more dynamic. But then the other thing is you have to take into account lifestyle changes as well. Like maybe they decide to have a kid in 5 years and the wife goes part-time and the husband actually takes on a higher paying role because he's achieved a level of expertise where he can change his job and really increase his salary. This kind of stuff happens all the time, right? And so you can plan out something more dynamic. Now, that's how I do it. And then, of course, you can see that below there's just much more detail and information. And so, this type of planning model is a little bit more dynamic. It's better. I would say it's what I use in my life. And I've been using it for maybe like the last 20 years or so. And so it's been very helpful. And, to get access to that more dynamic model, the Patreons get access to it at the higher tier, because what's happening is not only do you get access to your live calls, you also get access to these live special courses, and I'm releasing one every month. I'm actually releasing 2 this month, and one of this is a live course where I'm talking about exactly how I utilize that more dynamic budgeting tool, and I give them a downloadable version for themselves. Additionally, there's a comp schedule. I've talked about this a lot on this channel, and really it's a breakdown of 63 banks, and I've actually invested into banks considerably. I think it's my number 2 position overall in the portfolio. I've really gotten out of the housing business because made quite a bit in that, and so moving the portfolio on. But if you just want access to the research tracker, which really tracks all the companies that I'm tracking, you can get access to at the lower tier. So anyways, I hope you guys really found a ton of value from this video. I think once again, it's very important to provide more value than I try and take from the community. And so that's why I made this budget, or the simple budget model, free to download. So get that from the description and let me know what you come up with, and hopefully you learn something from it and it sets you on the path to financial independence. So I'll leave it there for you guys now. The Q&A series on this channel is the best value. It's all free, and I think there's a lot of good information there. And so if you haven't checked out the Q&A series, you can get access to that right here.